50 people, maybe more, were gathering for the memorial service of a fallen soldier, including his wife and his child. And then Iskander missile just hit the small store that was also serving as a cafe, having 51 people killed and I think 6 injured. It is just hard for us to process because it is indeed the most barbaric and the most terrifying attack since the beginning of the full-scale invasion.
Now, this is nothing short of barbaric. Ukraine says there were no military targets in the area, only civilians. Russia's attack on the village of Hoza in southeast of Kharkiv, killed at least 51 people, including an 8-year-old boy. They were attending a memorial service. The regional head of the area described it as one of the war's bloodiest crimes. Kira Rudik, I'm sure you know her voice, is a Ukrainian MP, leader of the Holos Party, who joins us now. Kira, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you just tell us, I mean, I've laid out the very scarce details there. What happened in Hoza, do you know?
So 50 people, maybe more, were gathering for the memorial service of a fallen soldier, including his wife and his child. And then Iskander missile just hit the small store that was also serving as a cafe, having 51 people killed and I think 6 injured. It is just hard for us to process because it is indeed the most barbaric and the most terrifying attack since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. It is hard to process the fact that the death can hit you at any time and without any fault from your side, without any provocation, just because you exist, just because you gathered to pay a tribute to a fallen member of the community. And just watching those pictures and hearing the reports is so hard for us because we are thinking, could it have been prevented? And the answer is potentially if we had more air defense systems. But the key issue here is that 19 months into the full-scale invasion, Russia is still capable of producing missiles, still capable of producing drones. And many of them are having their details as the particles that are provided by and manufactured in the Western countries. So things that we take as to our job right now is to make sure that the sanctions work, because you see the direct impact on Russia being able to produce missiles into what happens to our nation then. And this is why we need to cut all the loopholes that they are there in the sanctions. We need to beg for more air defense systems because literally people's lives depend on that. And you have seen what happens if we have nothing to protect people with. Ukraine has such a huge territory. And although we are so happy and with all the air defense system that we have received, you see that we obviously need more.
Yeah, I mean, President Zelensky, sorry for jumping in there, President Zelensky made exactly that pitch that you've just laid out to European leaders just yesterday, because there is real concern, and I wonder if you share this, over the disputes that seem to be taking place in the US about what kind of support they will be able to continue offering you. Given that, how are you feeling about the level of support that you're able right now to lean on from the West?
We are grateful for the support, and we have seen so much progress over the last 19 months. Like, look, at the very beginning of full-scale invasion, we were asking if we could have just anything. Then we get from the howitzers up to the fighter jets. So it is fantastic. But the question is it enough? And you see by the latest events that it is not. So our basic goal is to make sure that we are able to protect our people, just allow them to live, to exist. And we are still not at the point where we can do it for all people in Ukraine. The second point, of course, and second goal that we have is to make sure that we win the war and liberate people that are under the occupation. And as of right now, there are still struggles with having enough of the supplies enough of the weapons that our military require. We understand that it takes time for our Western allies to produce some of the weapons, to deliver them. But it is so clear for us that we need to accumulate all the forces. For all the countries that are not at war, please stand with us, support us with whatever you have, because this is where the weapons are foremost needed. And I want to come back to the sanctions point, because if we are talking that this war is obviously dragging forward, Russia will be just going on with their normal production, and they will be creating more and more of the weapons of different kinds, the supplies for those weapons. So the question of sanctions becomes super critical, because it can be like a never-ending story with West producing the weapons, Russia producing the weapons, and we are fighting for our lives. And this is, of course, not something that anybody would ever want for themselves and for the loved ones, right? So the question is how to cut all those ties with Russia, how to make sure that they are just not capable of producing more and more of those.
Kira Rudik, thank you so much for laying out just so passionately, echoing the words of President Zelensky over the weekend, that plea to European leaders, reinforce those sanctions and reinforce our air defence supplies. That the reason this comes at quite a critical time is there was a recent budget deal in the US Congress, and they didn't include in that funding for Ukraine. Clearly, they are the main financial supporters of the Ukrainian efforts to stave off the Russian invasion. So there are big question marks over the future funding. Kira, thank you so much.